So, as Rosh Hashanah, today's daf is Masechta Menachos Daf Chav Tes, number 29. We left off by Chav Ches Amid Beis, about I would say 14 lines from the bottom. So we're just going to read through the Gemara because it's pretty straightforward and you're probably very somewhat familiar with it. And here we go. The Gemara is discussing how tall the menorah was. Okay, so you can see there's a nice picture from the art scroll. You can get this online. Of the menorah. So basically, if you count up all the tvachim from the top to the bottom, you get 18. But we'll just go through it. You have the base, which was 2 tefach. Then you have a tefach of a flower. Then you have a space in between, which is 2 tvachim. And then, like on the bottom over here, you have a goblet, knob, and flower. Okay, this is part of the ornaments if you're making it out of gold. So, and then you have 2 tvachim space. You have 2 tvachim space. Then you have a knob with the konim coming out, a knob with the konim coming out, a knob, and each one is a tefach. And then the top, then there's 2 tvachim space till you get to the top of the menorah. The snap of the menorah had 3 tvachim. It had 3 geviyim, 3 bechers, or 3 goblets. Then the kaftorim, which were the knobs, and then you had a flower, and the flower held, I guess in this picture, is holding the vessel that was going to hold the oil. Sach hakoil, everything. If you count it all up, you get the menorah being. The menorah was 18 tefachim. So let's go right now into the Gemara. Chav Ches Amid Beis. We're going to go 1, 2, 3. Amar Shmuel. Shmuel said, Mishmei de Saba, in the name of Saba, in the name of an old person. I don't know who that old person is. Rashi says, Mishum Zakin Echad. So Shmuel was learning with an old man, and the old man told Shmuel, Goiver Shel Menorah, the height of the menorah was Shmonos Tefachim, was 18 Tefachim. Haraglayim, the base of the menorah, Perach, and the flower, Gimel Tefachim, is 3 Tefachim. Utfachayim Cholok, and you had 2 tefachs that were with nothing. The tefach Shaboy, and then you had a tefach Shaboy Gvia Kaftav Perach, and then you had a tefach that had just a goblet, knob, and flower. The Tefachayim Cholok, then you have nothing, no designs. The 2 Tefachim, but then you have a tefach Kaftar. Then you had a knob, as you saw in the illustration. You have a knob and two branches coming out from it. Then you're going to have a space of a tefach and etc. and another knob. Okay, the tefach chalaf, the tefach kaftar. Ushnei kanim yotzim nechad elech min shach va'olen kinei goy b'sham menorah. Utfchaim chalak, and then you have the last part, which was 2 tefachs empty, right? 2 tefachs empty from the last knob where the branches come out till the top. And then, says the Gemara, Gimel Tvachim. The top of the menorah had 3 Tvachim. Shebehen, Gimel Gvim, you had 3 bechers, 3 goblets, the kaftar, the ferach, and a knob and a flower. Says the Gemara. Ugvian, says the Gemara, what were the bechers? Lamahein daimim. How did the Gvim look, the bechers? So he says, Kimin Koisus Alexandrium, like the goblets, the expensive goblets that you could buy in Alexandria, Egypt. Kaftar and Lamahin Daimim, what would the knobs look like? Kimin Tapuche Akartium. Tapuche, I believe, is like an apple, and Kartium is a place. Pirachim, how do the flowers, Lamahin Daimim, how do they look? Kimin Pirche Amudim. That it's like the designs that you see on top of pillars. So that's it. The Nimtzu says the Braisa, Gviyam Esrim Shnaim, there were 22 bechers, 22 goblets, Kaftarim Echad also, there were 11 knobs, Prochim Tisha, you had 9 flowers. Gviyam Ma'akvin Zezeh, Kaftarim Ma'akvin Zezeh, Prochim Ma'akvin Zezeh, Gviyam Kaftarim, Prochim Ma'akvin Zezeh. You must have, in order to make a kosher menorah, all these decorations on the menorah. If you're missing one decoration, the whole menorah is possible. So that's the point. Says the Gemara on the bottom of the page. Bishlam and Kviyam Esrim Shnaim. I know that there were 22 goblets. The Ksiv, Uva Menorah Abo Gvinam, Ksiv Shloisha Kviyam Shikodim Akona Echa Bekafet Beferach, Abo Dida. We go to Amid Aleph Chavtes. Smone Sari Dekonim or Esrim Netanim. So basically, if you count the psukim and that how many times the Torah tells you to how many goblets to make, if you look in the psukim, it's pretty straightforward that you had to have on this menorah 22 goblets. Kaftorim nami achara. So how do you get 11 knobs? So let's count it. You got one for the seven branches, and then you have a knob over here, knob over here, knob over here. 7 plus 3 is 10. And then there was another knob over here in the middle. So you have 11. So that's it. Kaftar nami achara kaftar direi didol shish dekonim kaftar. Sorry, you got 11. Ella prochem tishum and alon. How did you know that you have 11 flowers? Prochem trei didol v'shisha dekonim t'mani yahave. If you count up the flowers, let's say you have a flower on top, so you have 7, right? And then you have a flower over here is 8, right? One flower over here. So the Gemara says there was one special flower at the bottom, right on top of the base. There's a flower over there, and that's how you get 8. So Amrav Shalman, that's how you get 9. Amrav Shalman ksiv ad yurecha ad pircha mikshehi. By the base, there was another flower there. So therefore, what the Gemara is basically saying that there were 9 flowers, 11 buttons, and 22 goblets. Says the Gemara, Amarav. Rav says, Goivel shel menorah tisha tvachim. Rav says a strange thing that the height of the menorah is 9 tvachim. Incidentally, let's call a tefach 3.5 inches. So you're talking about 27 inches. Okay, a little bit over 2 feet. So that's Rav's opinion. Says the Eisvei Rav Shimi Bachil Ravav. Rav Simi, who is this nephew of Rav, asked his uncle, how could it be that it was 27 inches? Evan hoisu lifnei menorah over shalosh malos shaleh al kohen oimid umeitiv alaneres. What Rav Shimi is wondering is if the menorah was so small, so short, why do you need 3 steps, like a step ladder to get up to the menorah? You see, that's what Rav Shimi is wondering here on the picture on the left side. If the menorah is so small, 72 centimeters, then how come you need 3 steps to get to the top of the menorah? So Rav is going to answer, I agree that the menorah was 18 inches. But what I said that it was 9 inches, a 9 tvachim, that the menorah was 18 tvachim, what I said it was 9 tvachim is from when the branches start coming out of the menorah. At that point, it's 9 tvachim, and the from there and downwards was another 9 tvachim. That's why you need him to stand on 3 steps. And this is what Rav is going to say. Amalei simiak, you're my simi. You're my nephew. You should know better what I meant. Ki kamina misvas konim ulamala. From the edge of where the branches come out and above, that's where it was 9 tvachim. But really, the whole menorah from the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, was 18 tvachim. Ksiv, it says by Shlomo HaMelech, va'perach va'neres va'melkechayim zav hu michlei zav. So it talks about the menorah, and it says it was michlei zav. It was somehow made out of gold, but some special gold. Ma'u michlei zav. What was the special gold that Shlomo HaMelech made the menorahs in the first Beis HaMikdash? Now, interestingly enough, Shlomo HaMelech did not just make one menorah in the first Beis HaMikdash. There were 10 menorahs there. That was the finest gold that Shlomo HaMelech had, and when he finished making the menorahs, there was none left. There was no Zahov Sagar. Zahov Sagar was the finest gold that you could have without impurities. So it was 25 karat. Okay, it was 9.999999 to the top, and it was the finest gold. And when he finished making the menorahs, he didn't have any much gold left. The Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, Esse menorahs asher Shlomo. Shlomo HaMelech made 10 menorahs. I have a little picture over here of how, they already have models of how the first Beis Hamikdash looked. It's very hard, psukim and malachim, and he's made 10 menorahs. You count them up, 10, and 10 shulchans. It was very elaborate. And v'chol achas ve'achas mehem hevi lo elef kikar zav. And for each one of them, Shlomo HaMelech brought 1,000 kikar zav. Okay, as kikar zav is about, each kikar is 110 pounds. So each 1,000, so he made 1,000 times 110 pounds. And then elef palmen lakur v'hamidu al kur. He had to take each piece of gold and bring it 1,000 times into a furnace to smelt it, to purify it. And when he's finished purifying, the 1,000 kikar turned into 1 kikar. And he did it 1,000 times. So every time they put it into the oven, it lost a kikar. So therefore, that's it. Aini, says the Gemara, did they have to do it 1,000 times? They probably had to smelt it even more than that, because if you want to take out the impurities of the gold, the pasuk says b'chol kli mashke melech shloim zal. First the Gemara says that, what do you mean? Shlomo HaMelech didn't have any gold left. V'chol kli mashke melech shloim zal, v'chol kli beis yar halabanim zal sagar, ein kesef nechshav b'mei shlomo l'muma. There was so much money around that it was valueless in the times of Shlomo. So what are you telling me, that Shlomo ran out of money? He ran out of gold. Answers the Gemara, you're right. Zahav Sago Kamrin, he ran out of gold, but he had money in the times of Shlomo HaMelech. The wealth was tremendous. Excuse me. Okay. Umichas kulahai, says the Gemara, when they smelt it down, did it lose so much? Let's say you had 1,000 kikar. Every time you put it into the oven, it lost a kikar. V'hatanya, we learned in the Brisa, Rabbi Yossi ben Yehuda Oimab, Maisa, there was a story. The menorah of the Beis Hamikdash was too much impure. It was more impure than the Beis Hamikdash with a coin, kurdinki. It was like a tiny amount bigger than the menorah that Moshe made. So they had to melt it down a little bit and purify it. They had to bring it 80 times liqueur to lose a little, a half an ounce of it. And they made it weigh a kikar. Bottom line is, in order for it to lose some of its impurities, you had to put it 80 times into the furnace. And you just told me that every time you put it into a furnace, you could lose 1% of it. And says the Gemara, Kivin the koi koi. Once gold was made into something, in order for it now to start losing impurities, the smelting process is much harder. But when you have pure gold, or you're starting from scratch, then you can smelt it with less work. But so what we just learned over here is that that the Michloi Zohov that it says in the pasuk by Divrei Yomim describing Shlomo HaMelech's 10 menorahs that he made is basically saying that when Shlomo HaMelech completed making the menorahs, he used the top gold that was existing at that time, and that's it. And then he didn't have any more that kind of Zohov Sogar anymore. New Gemara. Amrab Shmuel bar Nachmeni Rabbi Yonason. What does the pasuk say? Al hamenorah ha-tahira, that the menorah came from a tahira, a pure place. Shiarder ma'asel mimakam tahar. The Torah is telling you that the menorah came from heaven. That means that basically Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't figure out how to make the menorah, so God made the menorah come from heaven. Ela mi'ata, if you want to say that, ala shulchan hatar, the pure table. Did Hashem make the shulchan, that it came from a pure place? We have no reason to say that, because the shulchan wasn't a hard vessel to create. You see, the menorah, with all its designs and intricacies, Moshe Rabbeinu had a tough time figuring it out how he could put it together. But the Shulchan, he didn't need help for that. Ella, what does it mean tahar? Bichlal shihu tamei. Hachanami tahar bichlal shihu tmeya. So maybe it means that the basically is telling you that the menorah was pure, it was not tamei, just like the table was pure and it was not tamei. So how do you know that the menorah came from heaven? Answers the Gemara, Bishla Mahasam Kidrish Lakish. I can tell you why the Torah tells Shulchan HaTahar, because the Torah is teaching you an idea of what Rish Lakish said. The Amar Rish Lakish says, "My diksiv." What does the pasuk say? Al HaShulchan HaTahar, Mechlal Shu Tamei, Mechlal Shu Tamei. The Torah tells you about the Shulchan that it could be Mekabel Tumah. The question is, the Shulchan to be Mekabel Tumah, that's we have a question. Why should it be Mekabel Tumah? Kli eitz aser l'nachasu. It's like built-in furniture, and therefore it's not meant to be moved around. If you have a wooden furniture that's supposed to be in one place, so it's not Mekabel Tumah. So why does the Torah say that this shulchan could be Mekabel Tumah? So the Torah is telling you that they had to, during the year, move the table around. Elam Malami, this teaches you the idea. They would lift the table when the people came on Yom Tiv to the Beis HaMikdash and show them the lechem upon him. They would tell them on Shabbos, you see how beloved you are for the Eibishter. So the Gemara says, "Ma'chi baskem." How does the lechem upon him demonstrate that God loves the Jewish people? Rabbi Shua Levi, meis gadol nasa belechem upon him. The lechem upon him had a big miracle to them. Siluke kisidurei. Just like when you set it on to the table on Shabbos, it was hot because it was kept warm erev Shabbos, and the oven on Shabbos, they pulled it out of the oven on Shabbos, put it onto the shulchan, so it was hot. So when they removed the same piece of bread a week later, it was also hot. Shenema losim lahem lechem choim b'yom hi lokhay. That they had hot bread on the day that it was taken off the shulchan. So God wanted to show the Jewish people that don't worry about parnasa. Maybe you don't get a head start as others get a head start, but you'll end up with the rest of the world and be able to make a living as well. I think that's what it's trying to tell you. So the point of why the Torah had to say Shulchan HaTahar to teach you a chiddush, that this table is Mekabel Tumah. Other than that, it should not be Mekabel Tumah because it's not meant to be moved around. Ella Hacha by the menorah Tahira Mechlal Shi Tamei. If the pasuk is trying to tell you, oh, the menorah could be Mekabel Tumah, Shita, of course, Klei Matches Ninhu, Uklei Matches Mekabel Tumah. It's a metal keli, and certainly could be Mekabel Tumah. So why would the Chumash have to tell you that the menorah was Tahar? Ella must be to teach you the concept that the menorah was unique. Shior de Masel Mimkaim Tahara. That somehow this object of a menorah came from heaven. I guess Moshe copied it. It didn't land. We didn't get one that was made in heaven, but Moshe was able to visually see, as in visual Daf Yomi, to see it and then copy from the drafts, from the way God made it. Tanya, and it wasn't the only thing that Moshe had trouble with. Tanya, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Oren shel Eish, V'shulchan shel Eish, U'menorah shel Eish. All these Yardum and Shemayim, Moshe also Kamaisam. Moshe followed God's draft and picture and visualization of how the orange shulchan and menorah should look. Shnema urei, God says to Moshe, see it, v'asei kitavnisa mashat tamar bihar. Make it according to the exact design that you saw at the mountain. Elamiyata, if that's the case, would you say about the Mishkan, the whole building itself, the whole structure? It says you should follow the Mishkan as you were shown at the mountain. Are you going to say the same idea that the Mishkan came down from heaven? So the Gemara says, by the Mishkan, it says, follow the laws of how to make the Mishkan. Also, but by the other Kalim, it says, Kitav Nisam, make those Kalim as these drawings that you saw. So it must be that that Moshe Rabbeinu actually saw the menorah before he created it. Amar B'chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Gavriel Chagor K'min Piskei Haya. Gavriel, the Malach Gavriel, was dressed up like a worker. He was wrapped with an apron, let's say. The Herelo Moshe Ma'aseh Menorah showed Moshe the way the menorah is made. The Ksiv Zeh Ma'aseh Menorah. This is how the menorah should be made. Tana Rabbi Shmuel, Shloisha Devarim Haya Kashan Leila Moshe. Moshe had difficulty understanding three things. God had to visually show Moshe how it should look. The Elohei Menorah. These are the three things. Menorah, Rosh Chodesh. Moshe didn't know how big the moon should be, I guess, until to call it Rosh Chodesh. Ushrachim, and the different insects and rodents, which are kosher or not kosher. Menorah diksiv is zeh ma'aseh menorah. Menorah, it says God showed him this is the way the menorah should be made. Rosh Chodesh diksiv hachodesh hazeh lechem rosh chodashim. God showed him how the moon hachodesh hazeh, when the new moon renews like this, then you call it Rosh Chodesh. Shrotzim diksiv v'zeh lechem atami. This is tummy to you. This sheretz is not tummy. V'yeshayim af hilchos shchita. Moshe Rabbeinu had to know precisely what the hilchos shchita are. To precisely know where the right place to slaughter the animal. Let's see if we have a picture, because here there's a place on the kane, which if you go below it, then you could passel the shchita. So Moshe Rabbeinu was shown exactly where. Mishnah said that in a mezuzah you have to have two parshas, Shema and V'haya Mishmoya. Says the Gemara Pshita. Of course, it says if you're missing one letter, then it should be pasel. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Rav, of course, if you're missing one letter in your mezuzah, the mezuzah is pasel. But the Gemara is trying to say is that if your yud is missing, let's take a look at a yud. So according to Rashi, if you're missing this right side of the yud, it's even a drop of the yud is pasels the mezuzah. And according to Tosfos, it also means these these crowns, these drops that come off the top and the bottom of the yud. If you're missing that, the mezuzah is pasel. Says the Gemara, V'hanami Pshita, that's also simple. That's also simple. It's missing the letter, the way it's supposed to be written in Ksav Ashurus. Ela Kedidech, Rabbi Yehuda Amarav, Rabbi Yehuda Amarav, Kol Ois, She'ein Gvil Mukav Lo Me'abaru Chaseh Psula. It's teaching you that any letter that does not have a parchment around it, in other words, it's connected to the next letter, so then the whole, if it's somehow connected to the next letter, even though you can see the full letter, the mezuzah is pasel. So they have to be, separate. They cannot be joined like in a script. Omar Ashiyan bar Nadbach Mishmeid Rabbi Yehuda, his funny name, Ashiyan bar Nadbach, said in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, Nikaf toicha shel hay kasha yireche pasel. If you have a hole in the hay, in the left side of the hay, let's say if we can get the left side of the hay, you have a hole in the left side of the hay. Let's say you see this picture over here, 261, right over here. If you have a hole over there, it is pasel. But if it's on the right, it's kosher. If it's on the right side of the hay, then it's pasel. Okay, if it's on the left side, it's kosher. That's what he says. Caution. Yerechei pasel. Amar Abzeir ledim and partial made Rav Huna. Rabbi Yaakov Amar ledim and partial made Rav Yehuda. I was explained. They explained to me what Rabbi Yehuda said. Rabbi Yaakov, Rabbi Zira said. Rav Huna explained to me what it was meant. Mikaf toicha shel hay kosher. If the left side, the left leg, the tiny left leg that's detached from the roof of the hay has a little hole in it, is kosher. Yerechai, but the right thigh of the hay, kosher, that means that it's kosher. It will still be kosher if you have on the hay like a little bit left, like it was crossed out, but you could still see it like a tiny bit left. Let me see if I have it. I don't have it, but you have a little bit left on the left side. Okay. By the way, here's a picture of how you can have letters, but they're connected to each other, and that's pasel. That's the chiddush of the Gemara. Agra. It's interesting. We always get nervous about getting out tefillin pasel, And here the Gemara says a story. Agra Chamud Rab Abba. Agra, who is the father-in-law of Rab Abba, he opened up his tefillin. If Sikale Kara Dehe the Ha'am. He had a in his tefillin, it was he saw that the hay had a hole in it of the word Ha'am in this tefillin. Binikva, it had a hole. Also, the Rab Abba said, and this was on the right side, the one that's the part of the hay that's connected to the top. Amalei, so Rab Abba told him, if you have a little bit left of the leg, kosher. Vimlav, if you have no part of that hay left on the right side, possible, it's possible. The Gemara says, Rami bar Tamre du Chamu the Rami bar Dikli. Rami bar Tamre, who was the father-in-law of Rami bar Dikli. So the father-in-law and son-in-law pretty much had the same name, except maybe they're spelled differently. If Salei Kara Devav, the Vayaharoi. His Vayaharoi in his tefillin looked funny. It was cut off. Benikva. It was missing some of it. Also, the comment of Reb Zeire. So Reb Zeire, they came to Reb Zeire and they, how do you paskin? Amalei, he said like this: Zil I say nuka. You have to bring a child. The loy chakim v'loy tipish. He's not so smart, so he'll know what to answer, what you're looking for. V'loy tipish, he's not a fool. He's not a fool. So he's because he won't even know how to even recognize any unless it's a perfect letter. He has to be, just standard smart. Ikar v'yarag. If he can read it vayaharag, kosher, then the vav is kosher. Eloi, if he doesn't read it, then if he reads it like yehoreg with a yud, then it's pasul. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yehuda. Let's do another 3-4 minutes and then we'll stop. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav, when Moshe Rabbeinu went to heaven, he saw God putting crowns on top of the letters, like the kind of crowns that you see on the letters, the crowns that you see on the letters in a Sefer Torah. So he said, Moshe Rabbeinu said to God, why are you doing something like this? This is all last week's Seder, where Moshe is trying to accept the Torah. So Rabban Shalom said, this is going to be a very great man. And Akiva ben Yosef Shmai, his name is Rabbi Akiva. He's going to be able to darshan from every point of a crown of a letter. He's going to figure out halachas that come from that little part of a crown of a letter. I don't know what halachas ever came from a crown of a letter, but Rabbi Akiva ben Yosef was able to darshan. Amalei, so Amalafanav, so in his humility, Moshe Rabbeinu said, Rabbanu Shalom Harei Ili, show me this Akiva. Amalei, so Rabbanu Shalom said, Chazar lacharecha, turn around. Halach, and he went, Moshe Rabbeinu went, the Yasha B'Soif Shmai Neshuras, he sat in the 8th row of Rabbi Akiva giving a lecture. He couldn't figure out what the lecture was all about. So he went to a yeshiva where he couldn't figure out what the Rosh Yeshiva is talking. So Tashas Kaichai. So Moshe felt very bad. Kivin Shegia L'Davar Echad, when they said they came to a certain topic, Amar Lai Talmidim, so the students of Rabbi Akiva said, Rabbi Menayin Lecha, how do you know this din is true? Amar Lahan, he said to them, Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. This is Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu is like the new student in the class listening in. So they heard that they mentioned something Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. Shyash V'daitin, Moshe Rabbeinu felt better. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to Rabbanu Shalom, I have another problem. If this guy is so great, if this Tana, this person is so great, Rabbi Kiva, he's so great. You're giving me the Torah. I should be the one. He should be the one accepting the Torah on the behalf of the Jewish people. Moshe said, be quiet. That was my thought, that you should be giving the Torah, not Rabbi Akiva. Amar lefan of Rabbeinu Shalom. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, Rabbeinu Shalom, Harisani Torasei, Hareini Schare. You showed me this Rabbi Akiva learning Torah. Now show me his reward. Amar Lai. So Rabbeinu Shalom said, Chazar, turn around, lachayrach. Chazar lachayrach. He turned around. Rosh Sheklim B'Sari B'Makulim. He saw that Moshe, that basically he was skinned alive by the Romans. this Rabbi Akiva, and after they skinned his flesh alive, they were weighing his flesh on a scale. Amala Fanav. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, Rabbeinu Shalom, Zu Torah, Zu Schara. This is the Torah, and this is the reward for learning Torah, that he gets killed in such a way. Amalei Shasaik, Rabbeinu Shalom said to Moshe Rabbeinu, be quiet. Kach ola b'machshava lefani. Certain things you don't ask about, and we don't discuss, and that's it. That ends the story about the Rabbeinu Shalom with Moshe Rabbeinu trying to figure out. Let's just do another two more minutes, and then we'll stop. Amar Rava, Shiva Oisiyas Shricha Shleisha Zuvugim, the Elohein Shatnez gates. There are 7 letters that need 3 crowns on the letters, on each of the letters. Shatnez gates. You take these letters, if you look at a Sefer Torah, they have 3 crowns on them, three lines on them. Amar Ravashi, Chasina l'safri debei dafke debei rav, the chotre le legani deches, the tole le lekara deche. I saw the Sefer Torah in the yeshiva of Rav, and the ches looked like, the ches over here on the picture on the side of the Tosfos, and it had looks like 2 zayins with a cap on it. That looks like the ches. And I saw the hay, and the hay looks like a letter is it's missing a part of it, because there's only there's a break between the roof of the hay and the left leg. So, Chatri le legad the ches. I understand why there is a cap on top of the ches. Koloima chai hu berumel shaloilam. That is the one that is on top of the world, on top of the universe, is very much alive, very much active in this world. And that's how, when you see the ches, it should remind you that God is still involved. But the hay looks a little funny. It looks like a dalid with a broken leg on the left side. Why does it say have faith in the God? Because God created the world with Yud and the Hay. Amalei, so Rabbi Ami explained, if you have faith and trust in the Eibishter, God will be like a protector for you in this world and the next world. So you have to work on your faith and trust in the Eibishter. And even in the next world, we think we only need faith in this world. You need faith in the next world as well. When you don't have when you're beyond this existence. Amalei, so they asked, so Rabbi Yehuda Disia asked Rabbi Ami, I have another question. Why does it say with a base yud ka, with the ka, Hashem created the world? Answers the Gemara, Kidudarish Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai. Elu Shnei Alamais, there are 2 worlds, Shabara Kadosh Baruch Hu. Our universe, Echad Behei, Echad B'Yud. I don't know. God created the world with a yud and a hey. I don't know which world he created with a yud and which world he created with a hey. Kishu Aimer, when it says Elu told us a Shemayim ba'aretz bihi baram, al tikri bihi baram el behei baram. So we know that the universe that we have was created with the letter hey of God. The Olam Haba was created with a yud. It's nice to know that Rashi says that God divided his name, and every name he dropped 3 drops came off his name, and from those 3 drops we have water, fire, and the atmosphere of our earth. So that's how it was created with the letter hey. So our word was created with the letter hey. The Gemara just explains, and then we'll end. Why was our world created with a hey? If you look at the way our world is constructed, it's like an open hallway. Shakola writes a lot. If you want to leave the building, you could leave. In other words, you could self-destruct yourself. But why does the Kadosh Baruch Hu make it that the leg of the hay is missing? If you want to go do tshuva, then you could go around and come in through the back entrance. Says the Gemara of Elayel Bahach, why can't you go in through the front entrance? Loy mistayim milsa. You would not have siyata d'shmaya to go back. If a person wants to do tshuva, he has to make he has to try a new direction, and come in through the back entrance. When you want to do tshuva, Messiah, so you have an extra siyata d'shmaya. So if with an extra siyata d'shmaya, you could actually go around and come in and break through the back entrance. But if a person wants to self-destruct himself, it's all open for you. It's nothing to stop you. No one can stop you. No parent, nothing. No guardian. Concludes the Gemara. Why is there a crown on the hay? If you do tshuva and kasher, I will personally put a crown on your head. And why was Olam Haba created with Yud? Because there's very people who are going to get to Olam Haba. A little bit of people will get there. And again, why does the Yud look like this? Why does the Yud look like it's bending towards, it has droplets coming out of the edge of the Yud? Concludes the Gemara, because every tzaddik will bow his head to his neighbor. Every tzaddik has his own path and his own mission, and etc., etc. And therefore, everyone will be bowing to each other. That's why the Yud in the Sefer Torah is bent. And so ends this interesting daf. Chof Tes Menachos.